Time for football night in New York. I'm joined by SNY NFL insider Ralph Vacchiano and our NFL analyst Leger Douzable. And Ralph, what's the situation with Joe Judge and his future right now?
Well, he's their head coach for the moment, but that possibly could change. At the moment, it doesn't really look like it's going to change. I think his ground is starting to become a little less shaky, but ownership wanted to meet with him and discuss his future before they made any decisions. They wanted to hear about his vision for the future, the changes he might make, whether it was with the program or with his staff, and just kind of discuss with him their view of the organization and make sure they're still on the same page before they did anything at all. There's also the matter of the GM search, which could be extensive, and they might want to have some candidates weigh in on Joe Judge as well. So they just don't feel like it's a snap decision to bring him back. It's something they want to weigh over time, and it might take a couple of days before we hear anything at all.
And Leger, you know, after everything you've seen from Joe Judge the last few weeks, not only in his press conferences, but also on the field with his team's performance, should they move on from Joe?
You know, Chris, I'm not a huge fan of saying anybody should be fired, but I believe the Giants have to move on. I know Ralph can attest to this. We had this conversation in the beginning of the season, and I gave you a player's perspective. And in training camp, when you got guys doing up downs, you got guys running laps like they aren't grown men, guys will buy in as long as you win, but the Giants haven't won a lot. And then he goes on an 11-minute tirade talking about players that leave the Giants. They give him a call and say they wish they could come back even though they're getting paid more money. It was like he was trying to convince himself. And then on Sunday, on 3rd and 8, to me, this is just unforgivable. You decide to quarterback sneak it just to give yourself room. To me, that's gutless football. It seems at times this team has kind of quit on Joe Judge. They're not playing for him anymore. And the offense has just been downright horrible the last month of the season. So I know John Mara isn't a fan of firing coaches every 2 years, but you got to think about what the Giants stand for, right? They had a championship in 2007, 2010. Guys like Justin Tugg, Osio Miura, Michael Strand, they set the standard, man. And we haven't seen that type of Giants football in forever. So you don't want to compound a mistake by keeping the same head coach in place.
No, absolutely not, especially with what we've seen recently. And Ralph, you know, when you look at the other situation for this team, the GM, they have a vacancy there. What candidates are the Giants eyeing for the GM?
Yeah, there's 7 known candidates already, and it seems to be one of the widest searches they've undergone ever. Most of their previous searches have been focused on in-house candidates with maybe one outsider thrown in. This search has 7 candidates that we know of from other teams, names like Joe Shane, the Buffalo's assistant general manager, Ryan Poles, Kansas City Chiefs executive director of player personnel, Monty Ossenfort, Titans director of player personnel. What all 7 names have in common, aside from being outsiders, they're also young, which is something that the Giants don't usually look for in an executive. One missing name from that is Kevin Abrams, their assistant general manager, who had long been thought to be the heir apparent to Dave Gettleman. It doesn't look like he's going to even get an interview at all, which just shows that the Giants have done what everybody said they should do, which is turn over their franchise to someone from the outside with a new way of thinking and see if that can fix their mess. It doesn't look like they're going to go to what they know, which is what they usually lean on at all.
So, Leger, when they do exactly pick their new general manager, what will be the #1 challenge for them in your eyes?
This cap. They're going to be struggling with the cap number. I mean, now they're going to have some good draft capital because of the trade last year. They're going to have 2 first-round picks. But they're so cap-strong on a couple of deals. You talk about the Kenny Golladay deal, and you didn't get any production from that. They paid Leonard Williams in the offseason, Adoree Jackson. So this is a team where they have to bring Daniel Jones back, for one, because it's hard to really assess him with all the injuries to the offensive line and the injuries to Saquon Barkley and his receivers on the outside. But 2, they're going to be so cap-strapped. They finished this last game versus the Washington football team with less than 53 members on the team because they didn't have enough cap room. Like, that is just ridiculous for a team to only win 4 games to have that type of cap issue going down the stretch. So this new GM coming in, he's going to have some draft capital. But as far as manipulating, you know, the salary cap, it's going to be a struggle there.
Yeah, and obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure on the GM to succeed and be better than his predecessor. Ralph Vacchiano, Leger Douzable, thanks so much, guys.